Hi, Clarissa Mosley from Calm Mind Psychology, and today we're going to look at how we can stop being such an overfunctioning people pleaser, which are prime features of being a codependent personality type. So in this video, I'll be looking at the core features of what you need to do to pull your people-pleasing back in line and fill up your own cup and maintain some good self-boundaries for the highest good of you and everybody you know. So if you'd like to learn more, please watch on. So in my last video, we talked about a broad overview of what codependency is, how it forms, the main characteristics, those of being particularly overfunctioning and people-pleasing. And I said I would make a video helping you to overcome these tendencies. Now let's remember that codependency is a deeply ingrained behavioral strategy that you somehow learnt as you were a child. So this means it can go very deep and it can feel incredibly uncomfortable to peel back these behaviors because they are part of who you are. And they are certainly how you are getting your sense of self-worth and identity in the world met. And so the first step, obviously, of having a problem is to admit that you have one. So if you seem to resonate with the characteristics of someone who has codependent patterns, that is, they are not dependent on people, they are dependent on others to get their self-esteem needs met. They are dependent on overcompensating for the perceived lack or the perceived need in another. And that other is most likely to be a partner or a family member, but can also extend into friends and the workplace. And so as a codependent, you have a strong need to be needed. And this can be dressed up in many different ways. You might feel like you're a great philanthropist. You might do a lot of charity work or a lot of extra work. You could be a parent, thinking that you are doing the best parenting job in the world by doing everything for your children so they need not want for anything, only to have your 10-year-olds turn around and become little demanding tyrants and monsters because you have enabled them to become so entitled and spoiled. So changing that is particularly difficult because as parents we're primed to love and care for our children. And obviously we're thinking we are doing the best when we are caring for them a lot. But obviously there are limits to how much we can care for them and the time and stage and age where they need to start taking responsibility for themselves. So if you identify as being a people pleaser, somebody who really goes out of their way to make other people's lives comfortable and happy. Somebody who cannot say no without feeling incredibly uncomfortable. And somebody who really does get joy from seeing people happy. And you do this by overfunctioning. You take on more than your fair share of roles and responsibilities in the relationship or the workplace or the household. You overwork, you overproduce, you overmanage, you even overthink for other people. Overthinking and obsessional thought is a key characteristic of the codependent mindset. Codependents and people pleasers feel incredibly distressed at the thought or the idea that they may have upset somebody. It's actually quite threatening to them due to the fear of abandonment and rejection and the low sense of self-worth. There's a belief, a mistaken belief in the codependent people-pleaser type personality that they are responsible for the happiness and well-being of other people. And so if they feel they've upset someone, said the wrong thing, the person didn't respond to a message and it's been a long time. Did they take it the wrong way? Have they upset them? Is that person thinking how bad you are? These thoughts can go round and around and around obsessively. It's not a nice way to live, and you want to be able to regain your autonomy and your sense of self back. And possibly you are in a relationship with a person who is exploiting your people-pleasing, niceness, overfunctioning by virtue of them being more demanding, entitled, lazy, not pulling their weight, to the extent that they could also be an outright narcissist. Now, if that is the case for you and you are in a relationship with an overbearing narcissist, I will put some covenants around this, some boundaries, restrictions, in that you do need to tread carefully if that's the case, because inflaming a narcissist can be a little bit unsafe. However, your healing as someone who has characteristics of codependency is an incremental, stepwise process. So perhaps you just start to look at yourself and look at how your characteristics show up in your life. Are you overworking? Are you taking on more workload than you know you can handle because you cannot say no to your boss or your co-workers? Are you doing way too much for your children and they're not even doing little things that they could be doing that's age appropriate to them? Are you thinking on behalf of your partner, finishing their sentence, thinking about what they might want, need, and therefore providing it before they even have to ask? All of these things are characteristics of the overfunctioning codependent who likes to people please. So you probably have a high amount of empathy. You may not, but you probably do really think and feel and not want to see other people suffering, especially if they're people that you love and care for. It pains you to think that your child went to school without lunch and they could starve. Right? It actually distresses you to think that you might have said something that upset your partner and they could be thinking about it now and thinking that you're not a worthy person to be with. It distresses you to think that you might have accidentally insulted a friend by not doing or saying the right thing at the right time. All of these things impinge heavily upon you because you believe that you can imagine how the other is feeling and thinking. And so this is the first place that I want to pull you up, because most of the time your beliefs are your projections. Your imagining of what another person's pain can only ever be an assumption. Because you are overly empathic, you project your over feelings into other people. Now, if you just happen to be in a relationship with someone who's more narcissistically oriented, I can assure you that their pain and suffering is nothing like the daily torment that you put yourself through. Because what a codependent does in relationship with a narcissist is they actually enliven them by projecting their thoughts, feelings, and emotions into the narcissist, who probably isn't feeling them at all. They might pretend that they're upset about something. They might go into a narcissistic rage or become indignant and act as if they're so insulted, and maybe they are. But they are going to bounce that feeling, that shame, that bad feeling right back at you. And you are going to do all the feeling, you are going to do all the overfunctioning, all of the rumination, and you are going to carry all of the blame and the shame. Now that's an extreme example. Let's use the example I gave before of your kid has gone to school and forgotten their lunch. Oh my God, they're going to be so hungry. I have images of them wandering around the playground, lost and alone, bereft of food or friend, wallowing in starvation. It's an over-exaggeration from my own empathy, right? It may not be the case. There's a tuck shop, there are other kids, there is food, they had breakfast, they're going to have dinner, they're not going to starve. But the idea that somebody that you love is going without is painful to you. Their pain is more painful to you than your own pain. You don't actually feel your own pain proportionally. Your own pain is contingent on what you imagine other people's suffering is. This is being overly empathic, and it is a fallacy. And it does not serve you, and it does not serve the other. Because what it means is that you bear the burden. You bear the burden of feeling and thought and all of these things that are unlikely to be happening to such a strong extent in the other person, because you're doing all the work for a start. If they are suffering a little bit, then that is actually okay, because it's not your job to save the world. I'm going to say it again, because from one people pleaser to another, I know how you think. And you do actually at a level believe that it is your responsibility to take away the pain and suffering of others. And I'm sure that you made some observation when you were younger about suffering and pain, and some commitment at some point in time that you wanted to do your best to alleviate that in others, because you know how much it hurts. I want to tell you that that is your experience, and that is an artifactual experience. That is something that you felt in your history. Other adults and children that are growing into adults need to deal with their own pain and suffering in their own way, on their own. And that is the only way people grow and change. If we want to overfunction and try and take another's pain away from them, who are we to do that? What kind of grandiose pride and overfunctioning control do we have to try and take another person's pain and suffering away from them? Think it through. I mean, it sounds wrong to you on surface, I know, because I know how you think. But when you actually look at it and step back and go, yeah, actually, the only way I've grown is through my own suffering, and it was uncomfortable and it was horrible, but I got through and out the other side a better person. When we are trying to take away another person's or imagining their suffering, it's not ours. It's sort of outside of us, and so we can only imagine it through projection, and we're often so wrong. So we are actually feeling more than is ours and more than we can actually do anything about. It would be like somebody has cut themselves and it's okay. Oh, ouch, that looks terrible. Oh, wow, bandage it up. But it's like you're trying to do the healing for them. Their body will do that. That will happen if it is left to its own device. You cannot be in that wound all the time trying to meld the cells together. Your behaviors are compulsive. You have formed habitual ways of being in the world where you are putting other people ahead of yourself, and that leaves you unknown to yourself. You don't have great boundaries, and in order to have good boundaries, you need to know who you are. And you can only know who you are by actually looking at that. If you're overfunctioning and overdoing things for other people and you're expending all of your energy people pleasing, like a lot of your energy can go there. If you can't say no and you're the nice person, people are going to pile things up on your plate. Be it at work, be it at home, be it anywhere. They are going to come to you first if they've got a big problem they want to dump out. They are going to come to you first if there's extra work to do. They're going to leave the dishes in the sink for you to do because they know that you're going to go, oh, I may as well do them. You are going to end up having not a lot of your own energy left. And so the boundaries and the knowing yourself have to sort of happen incrementally and in tandem. You actually need to be aware, one, that you are compulsively overfunctioning, and pull that back, because it's going to change the dynamic in your relationship or your family system or your workplace. And it will be a little bit destabilizing for everyone, but you have to do it because you are the one that are going to suffer the health problems long term if you don't learn how to manage your energy. You are also going to be responsible then for enabling other people to do less and be lazy and kick back and rely on someone else to do it, so they don't develop great life skills either. So you have to be responsible for yourself, not for everybody else. And that is the hardest thing for you to do. You can only be responsible for yourself, and you need to start pulling your scattered energy back to reclaim it for yourself because you need it. So even the act of journaling, of self-reflecting, of noticing how often you have to say yes because you can't say no, even starting there is a great way to start to look at yourself. Now, the label warning is that codependently oriented people tend not to look at themselves, one, because they feel this hollow core of emptiness when they do, and two, because you feel so responsible for meeting the needs of others, you tend to feel a lot of shame when you withdraw that. And so, as I mentioned in the previous video, opposite to the narcissistic personality, who has a grandiose, shallow pride that's kind of a brittle shell around them, you have a fragile, brittle shame structure that is never too far from the surface. And so if you are to let anyone down, you feel so bad, it can trigger feelings of shame. And so this is where empathy becomes inversed and becomes self-betrayal. You actually betray your own needs for self-care all of the time. And so pulling back some of your energy is going to trigger shame, so you need to be aware of that. And you need to know that you are doing this for the highest good of yourself and everybody you know. Because while you overfunction, they underfunction. While you people please, they get to rest on their laurels and hand over things to you. While you do these behaviors, you lose energy and you lose vitality. And sadly, you can also lose a lot of your health, because your energy is constantly getting bled out to other people. So you're doing this to get your need for value and esteem get reflected back to you from other people outside by what you do and how you show up for them. So it's going to be tricky for you to do this without feeling worthless and shameful. But if you have an awareness that that is going to come up for you when you start to say, I don't know if I can do that right now, which is similar to saying no, but just not as painful, then you're going to feel uncomfortable. The shame can get triggered. So be aware of this. Be aware that your value needs to be your value. And your ability to set boundaries is going to take back bits of yourself that you have been giving away for so long. And it's going to feel weird and uncomfortable, and that's okay. That's what change and growth is. It feels weird and uncomfortable. Codependent type personalities tend to thrive on fantasy a lot. There is a lot of unrealistic thinking about, the mind goes a lot around, if we do this and I can just make this person happy and they're going to be so pleased with me and everything's going to be great. These fantasies go on in your head. If you're in a dysfunctional relationship already, you actually keep pedaling harder to try and get back whatever good things that you had in the beginning, trying to keep the other person happy, or at least make them happy for a change. And the sort of the pedaling tends to get harder and harder and harder. And so your ability to pull back your energy is going to be more compromised if you're in one of those dysfunctional relationships. But it's even more important, because I can tell you right now that whatever it's like now is probably going to slowly get worse and worse as time goes on. It certainly isn't going to get better. And so being able to connect in with reality is really important. We all tend to operate on some element of fantasy in our lives, but when your energy is always pushed out towards making other people happy and pleasing them and not saying no or rocking the boat, you're not really in touch with reality. The reality is you are you, they are they can take care of themselves. If they're an adult, they can manage it. If they're children, they can learn it. If they're your partner, they are a grown-ass person and they can do it, right? And you are entitled to your own space, time, and your own self-care. So start by adding in small acts of self-care towards yourself. Now, I know so many women, particularly mothers, when they are invited to do self-care, which they know they should do, they feel guilty. Guilt, shame, not too far away from each other. They feel that their energy should be getting spent on the house, on the kids, on the care of the others, and they feel this discomfort. And that's exactly what I've been explaining. You're going to feel uncomfortable. But if you do not do these things, you are the one who will suffer. In fact, everyone will suffer because you will be compromised. You will become exhausted eventually. I've seen it happen over and over and over and again with the people that I've worked with and that I've known. Over time, this overfunctioning and people-pleasing leads to your exhaustion. And it leads to the other people becoming dependent, lazy, and then they get resentful. Right? If you do collapse in an exhausted heap, they get upset with you. They don't actually come running and looking after you all that often. It's a terrible thing to watch and observe, but it can happen. So it's super important that you start to snatch moments for yourself. Be it journaling, be it bathing, be it walking, be it time in nature, being it having a massage, anything that you can take back that is just for you, please do it. And wherever you can, start to use that edging around the word no. And start to have little phrases up your sleeve that you can use for the people that you know may come at you saying, can you please, would you mind, can you, take care of this? I need you to volunteer in the tuck shop. I need you to do that. I need you this. You need to have some little phrases tucked up your sleeve saying, where you get to buy time or kind of say no or maybe without actually saying no. No. So you can say, can I have a little bit of time to check my schedule and get back to you on that? If it's something you know you can't possibly do, I'm so sorry, but my son's music recital is on at that time. I can't possibly make it or stay late for work. My schedule is already booked up for meetings that day. I can't possibly attend that meeting. So having, depending on your circumstances, go ahead and write down ways that you can politely decline requests that are going above and beyond what you can manage. And get realistic about what you can manage. People pleasers and overfunctioners get their high from giving others their supply. You kind of juice off being able to do all of these things. You get a thrill from being a superhuman. Okay, so it's not realistic. You working 60 hours a week is not realistic on anyone's schedule. You doing a job and doing all of the housework and the child care and the cleaning and the cooking and taking the dog for a walk and taking the rubbish out, you doing all that, you can do it now, but it is not good for you. And if you are getting a sense of pride from that, then you need to get realistic. Who's it serving? So you get a little ego boost that you can actually manage to work 13 hours a day and still come home and make dinner. So what? Who's that serving? right? Be aware of what is actually realistic, practical, and good for you. Be okay with having boundaries. Know what your boundaries are. So how do you do that? Lots of people are like, what? Boundaries? Ooh. A boundary is the line between self and other. It's like, this is me, and this is what I will accept and let in, and what I will let out. So a people pleaser overfunctioner is bleeding out all of their energy to everyone else in order to feel good about themselves. So you're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable when you start setting boundaries, so know that. But the more of a boundary where you say, no, I can't do that. No, I won't allow that. No, I don't like it when you talk to me like that. Every time you do that, you take back bits of yourself that you've lost. Because remember, you are habitually operating from a past that you learned how to be this way, and you learned how to show up for people in this way. You thought it was a good thing to be the best people pleaser in the world. Somewhere along the line you got some sort of recognition for that, or it got you out of trouble. But that was in the past. Now you're an adult, you need to take responsibility for yourself and your care. And you are not caring for yourself when you are over caring for other people and denying your own needs. So identify what it is that you need as a very basic level. You need adequate sleep. You need adequate downtime and alone time. You need adequate self-care, and however that looks for you. For some people, it is walking in nature. For some people, it's been able to go dancing. For some people, it's been able to hang out with friends. Other people, it's being with their animals. Everybody has their thing where they feel refueled. Painting, writing, doing something that's just for you is 100% okay and absolutely necessary. So really, it is a matter of not giving yourself away so much. Not relying on other people for your sense of value, because that will always fall flat on its face, because we cannot please all the people all the time. People will always find something to get upset about. And it tends to be that when you are a people pleaser, people exploit that. They get picky. They seldom appreciate everything that you do for them. It's fruitless, it's futile, it's compulsive. You need to stop, you need to slow down, you need to take care of yourself. You need to start looking inside yourself, knowing that it might be this empty void initially because you've spent so much of your life and energy pouring it out to other people. You look and you're like, wow, my well is empty. Okay, so don't be shocked if that happens. It's okay. It's a very common feature. But you can, as an adult, rebuild yourself and your identity. And you do that by taking pieces of yourself back. Here is my boundary. Here is what I need for me. Here is what I won't accept from you anymore. And know that behavioral change takes time. Don't beat up on yourself if you cannot do this by next week because you're an overfunctioner and you think you're, so highly effective you can write out a to-do list and get this done. No. Every change takes time and repetition. If you've been doing this for a lifetime, it's going to take you a little while to unwind all of these behaviors and start to fill up yourself again. And that's how you'll get to know yourself. It's kind of like, oh, I didn't have to stay till 8 o'clock tonight because I said no. Even if I made an excuse that I had something else on, I did it. I might feel guilty. Yes, that's right. She told me I might feel guilty. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. The world's not going to end. I'm here. I'm an adult. I get to do this. So these are the self-talk things. So your self-talk matters too. You give everybody so much. Can you please give yourself some nice words? Can you please have some positive self-talk? Can you please do things for yourself? Okay, so I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. I've got more videos on the channel, more videos coming. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask or drop some comments in the box below. I really hope that you will be successful on your path to regaining yourself and pulling back in your compulsive overfunctioning and people pleasing. And I really hope this video pleased you. Thank you.